Trying to understand English grammar is like trying to solve a mystery. English grammar is irregular, contradictory, and confusing. Fortunately, though, you don't have to walk these dark streets of grammatical confusion by yourself. I'm English teacher Paul Duke, and on this show I'll be your grammar detective. Each week, we'll investigate communication crimes and suspicious sentences, context clues and example evidence. Together, we'll solve these English mysteries once and for all. Welcome to Hard Boiled English Live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hard Boiled English Live. It is Friday, October 27th, 2023, and I'm thrilled to be with you once again. I'm your humble host, English instructor and grammar detective, Paul Duke, and I'm streaming to you live from Vancouver, Canada, to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, and Livespace. So whichever platform you're watching on, wherever in the world you're watching from, welcome. And thank you so much for joining me. On this live stream, I investigate mysteries. Your English grammar mysteries, to be specific. So I want you to think about what aspects of English grammar confuse you, trouble you, what aspects of grammar you struggle with. And I want you to pose those questions here on this show so we can investigate them and hopefully solve your English mysteries. Now, on tonight's show, we have a couple of questions lined up that I want to talk about, as well as we'll have a short little quiz to get your brain thinking grammar, and then we'll address your questions. To start with, I'd love to say hello, and I'd love it if you guys would say hello in the comment thread and tell me what country you're watching from. Now, we've already got with us Lolly Lolly from France. Welcome, Lolly Lolly. We have Stacy, who's watching in Korea. We have Emmanuel, and I can't remember where Emmanuel is watching from. We have Chris, longtime fan and friend of the show, watching from Belgium. We have, I can't read that far, Omrum, I think. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Omrum from Turkey. Great. Stacy from South Korea. We have Maria Cristina from Brazil. We have fellow English teacher Wilson from Ecuador, land of the most delicious chocolate. Hopefully you're doing well, Wilson. Now you may be wondering why I have all the scary graphics tonight. Well, October 31st is Halloween, and in North America, it's a very popular holiday. Now, it's not an official holiday. Stores and businesses are still open, but it's a fun holiday. And in Canada and the US, people go crazy about Halloween, myself included. It's my favorite holiday or festival. On Halloween, children get dressed up and they go to homes and show their costumes and get some snacks. Many people with homes and houses decorate them with Halloween scary stuff. It's a chance to, face your fears, have some fun scaring each other. As a teacher, when I worked at a language school, I always enjoyed Halloween because we had a Halloween party and it was a chance for me to wear a costume and scare my students. Now, those of you who watch my show also know that I always wear a costume. I'm always dressed up as the grammar detective. Now, I'm not really a detective any longer, although my first career was. I'm now an English instructor, but this is my way of having fun with this show and investigating English. So Lolly Lolly says, Halloween is not very popular in France, okay? Yes, Halloween is one of my favorite events, so it sounds like it's popular in South Korea. And we have Emmanuel with us from Dominican Republic, that's right. They removed you from grammar group. I'm sorry about that. Forgive me one moment. I have someone who's trying to advertise in our comments. We don't want that. So please don't come to my show and advertise. That's not very polite. I'm here to help my students and friends learn English grammar, so it's not a time to talk business. But how are you guys doing? Everything okay where you're from? Hopefully you're all well, safe, healthy. Okay, well, in a few moments, we'll get ready for our grammar quiz. Yes, this is a good point, Chris. Of course, we're adults, we're not children. We understand a lot of these holidays have become very commercialized. A lot of products are sold during this time. Halloween is very commercial in North America too. However, we still enjoy it. It is highly commercialized, as is Christmas, Easter. All the holidays revolve around products that get sold, including movies, including food, Halloween costumes. In my city, every Halloween there are huge Halloween stores that pop up. They use a temporary store space, huge store space, and they sell Halloween costumes, products, scary things. It is highly commercialized. I still like it. We also have with us, how do I say this name? Raharia? Tia from Indonesia. Yes, Tia. Welcome, Tia. Great to have you with us. We've got a good turnout today. Thank you guys for joining the show. This is fun. In a few moments, we'll start our quiz and get your brains thinking about grammar. And tonight I'm going to answer hopefully several questions, but if not, one important question that someone has asked me. And often what happens is someone asks me a simple grammar question, but it kind of expands into a more complicated answer because grammar is complex. There's no doubt about it. But just because it's complex and just because grammar is hard to learn, it doesn't mean you shouldn't learn it. Okay? I say this often on this show. Grammar is the structure of the language through which we express meanings, or through which we understand meanings. So that means if you can't use grammar well, you can't communicate meanings well. And the purpose of a language is to communicate with each other. So grammar is essential to learning a language. Now, some people have a bad experience learning grammar in school. Maybe it's not fun. Maybe it's difficult. But that does not mean it's not important. So on my show, hopefully, I make grammar interesting, fun, and hopefully teach you that there are different ways to look at grammar. Grammar is not just a bunch of rules. Grammar is an architecture. It's a structure. It's a pattern. And if you can start to understand those structures and patterns, you can express your meanings much more clearly. And that is the goal. Okay? Grammar is not just a bunch of rules to memorize so you can pass a test. Now, some people don't think grammar is important. They think, oh, vocabulary is important, or listening is important, or speaking is important. They're all important. But the thing is, if you don't have grammar, you don't have a language. Just like if you're building a bridge across a river, if you don't have a design, if you don't have an architecture, you don't have a bridge. It will collapse and it'll be a disaster. Language requires an architecture to make meaning. Bad grammar, no meaning. So grammar is important, and hopefully we can have fun learning it together. Okay. That being said, let's get ready for our grammar quiz. Now, today's quiz is a multiple choice. I'm going to put it on screen in a moment. And what I'd like you to do is type in the comment thread your answer that you think is the most correct. Sometimes, you know, there are more than one possibility. I want you to choose the most correct response, okay? Are you guys ready? Let's go. Let's investigate. Okay, first question. Paul likes pizza, blank. He does not eat it every day. What's the best answer? What do you think? Just going to check my... What do you think? Which one is the best answer? Okay, we have some people saying but. We have several but or C, whichever you prefer. Okay. Now, just because everyone says C or but doesn't mean it's correct, not yet. So don't feel like you have to follow the crowd. Okay, anyone else? Remember, there could be two possibilities. Now for this quiz, I have to program the app with one choice only, but actually sometimes there are more than one choices. Well, it does seem like everyone has chosen the answer but. So let's check which one's correct. Is it for? No. Is it with? No, it is but. Paul likes pizza, but he doesn't eat it every day. Okay, how about this one? The weather is getting cold, blank, rainy. The weather's getting cold, blank, rainy. What do you think? Okay, we see some answers popping in. I see and. I see and. I see and. I see and or a. Did I make this quiz too easy? Maybe that's... Okay, we also have two. Okay. The weather's getting cold, blank, rainy. Very interesting. Very interesting, people. See some very interesting answers here. Well, Lolly has confidence today. Lolly says it's a piece of cake, which means it's easy. Well, you know, maybe. I love the confidence, though. Confidence is important. I often tell language learners, you need to study a lot, you need to practice a lot, but you also need to trust your English as you're learning it. If you think an answer is correct, it's probably because you have experience with that answer, that language, that sentence, or that grammar. Somewhere deep in your memory, it seems natural. After you've studied for a long time, you have a lot of English in your memory, right? So if you feel it's correct, it probably is. If you feel it's not correct, it probably isn't, and you should trust your feeling. If you've got a lot of experience with a language, you build up an intuition, and you have to learn to trust it. Okay, well, the answer is the weather is getting cold and rainy. So two things are happening at the same time. It's getting cold, it's getting rainy. Okay? So and is the correct answer. Let's go to number 3. After school each night, she loves to watch dramas, blank, listen to music. She loves to watch dramas, blank, listen to music. What do you think? Oops. We have Lolly saying so far so good. We have Chris saying and. We have Stacy who says or. Wilson says and. Tia says or. Lolly Lolly says, remember, Lolly Lolly has confidence. So Lolly Lolly says there are two answers possible, or and. Maria Cristina, or Chris, as she likes to be called, says or and. Now, this is an interesting example. Maybe I would say it's getting a little more complex. And we'll see why in a moment. Emmanuel says B, and. Okay. Very interesting. Excuse me, guys. I'm just going to adjust my position on the screen. Yeah, this is where I want to be. So it looks like we have or and here. So let me explain what we have. Look carefully at this sentence and you'll see a time adverbial to start the sentence. It tells us when we are talking about this action, when this action happens. It says after school each night. So every day at night, she loves to watch dramas. That's one action. Listen to music is another action. Now, because we have a time information, the idea is possible that two actions are happening at night, two actions are happening at the same time. If that's the meaning, you would choose and. She loves to watch dramas and listen to music at the same time. So she might be watching her computer screen, watching a drama, listening to music on her stereo. That's what and is implying here. It's implying that both of these happening at the same time. It's also possible that at night she chooses between two choices. She watches drama or she chooses listen to music. So this sentence has a little bit of ambiguity. We're not entirely sure which one is accurate because we don't know the full story. We don't know if she does two actions at the same time or she chooses drama or listen to music. Personally, if I watch a drama, I don't also listen to music. I choose. If I listen to music, I don't want to watch something. I want to listen. But it's possible to do both. So I would say you guys are correct. A and B are both possible. However, for this app, I can only make one choice. So you'll see that or is the correct choice here. But and is fine too. Let's move on to number 4. Class was canceled, blank. The students went home. Class was canceled, blank. The students went home. What do you think? Let's solve the mystery. Class was canceled, blank. The students went home. Class was canceled. The students went home. What do you think, folks? Okay, we have one vote for so. We have another vote from Lolly for so. Chris says so. Another Tia says so. Lolly is voting twice. Wow. Not only are you confident, you're determined to select so. Who is this? Berta. Berta's with us. Welcome, Berta. Berta says so. Wilson in Ecuador says so. And I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Omrom also chooses so. And my friend Emmanuel says so. So seems to be the most popular vote here. Well, let me explain the answer here. Class was canceled. Blank. The students went home. Now, this sounds like there are two ideas here. Class was canceled. Students went home. Two separate actions, two separate ideas. But it also seems like one caused the other. Class was canceled, which caused the students to go home. The students went home. Why? Because class was canceled. So there's a cause and effect relationship in this sentence. There's a cause-effect relationship. And when we connect cause and effect, we have a few words we can use. And the only word here that expresses cause and effect is so. So if you chose so, whichever one did, good job. So connects causes and effects. It is sunny outside, so I'm going for a walk. Okay? Okay, number 5. I want to buy a Ferrari, blank. I have no money. I want to buy a Ferrari, blank. I have no money. Okay, we have yet. It is correct. I don't think that's one of the choices. We have yet. We have yet. We have yet. We have yet. We have D, which means yet. Anybody else? I'm just going to get a quick glass of water with my Grammar Detective mug, which are available on my website, along with t-shirts and other products, if you'd like to get some. Now, anybody else have an answer? Guy is with us saying yet. We have yet. Yet seems to be the most popular choice. But is it correct? Wilson says yet. Emmanuel says yet. Well, guys, the answer is, in fact, yet. Now, I think some of you would probably also choose another word, which is but, because but and yet, in a similar way, express contrast. Now, what is contrast? Contrast is two different ideas. More specifically, more usually, in a sentence like this as an example, but and yet express contrast between negative and positive, or positive and negative ideas. For example, I want to buy a Ferrari. That's positive. That's the grammar speaking. I want. That's a positive grammar. I have no money. No. The word no makes that grammar negative. You're expressing the absence of something. Something you do not have. I have no money. So that's negative. So we have a positive idea. I want to buy a Ferrari. I have no money. Which means, of course, no Ferrari. So we can use one of two words, but, which is not a choice here, obviously, or yet. These are the two choices you have grammatically, but in this quiz, yet is the only choice. Maybe this was too easy. Maybe. But I wanted to do this topic because when I clicked on 4, okay, I understand. Okay, so the reason I chose to do this is to warm us up, because tonight's topic that I'm going to answer, that somebody asked me, is kind of built on this idea. Now, what you may have guessed already is that all of these words are conjunctions. In fact, they're the fanboys, so-called. And fanboys is just a way of remembering the conjunctions. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And the first letter, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S, helps you remember the main conjunctions. And conjunctions do a simple job. They connect a clause with a clause, right? So let me blow up the screen here, and we can begin our investigation for tonight. Okay, so these are the basic conjunctions. Now, if you give me a minute, I'm just going to get out of my costume because it's time to get busy with some work. And I'm indoors and it's not raining, so why wear a raincoat? That's crazy. Why wear a hat? Fanboys, yes. Okay, so this is a good question. Lolly's asking, can I use however? Now you can, but you have to use it differently. Fanboys connect two sentences, to independent clauses, right? For example, Paul likes pizza. That's an independent clause because it has a subject, Paul, and a verb, likes. And on the other side, we have he does not eat it every day. So he is the subject, and does not eat is the verb. Different verbs, different subjects means there are different clauses. And we chose but for that. Sorry guys, let me get this off screen. Now, however has the same meaning as but or yet. Same meaning, but it doesn't work the same grammatically. So but and yet join two clauses. So if you wrote this, you would start like the sentence here. Paul likes pizza, comma, but he doesn't eat it every day. And I'm running out of space, but I'll put a period there. Okay, so that's one long sentence with two clauses in it joined by the conjunction. However is not a conjunction. So if you made this sentence with however, you have to start a new sentence. Paul likes pizza. Period. Start a new sentence. However, he does not or doesn't eat it every day. Okay? So, however is designed to begin a sentence. It's a subordinating conjunction. So grammatically, it does not connect two sentences into one. It doesn't connect two clauses into one sentence. It's designed to begin a new sentence, but reflect on the previous idea. Paul likes pizza. However, he doesn't eat it, pizza. Okay, so it has the same meaning as but. It shows contrast, but it's designed to begin a sentence. Okay, so it's a great question. But for now, I want you to remember the fanboys, because the fanboys are what we call conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions. They coordinate one clause with another one. What I want to talk about tonight is something that many learners get confused with. So to get started, I'm going to clear the board, but I want you to hold this idea in your memory. Okay? What does a conjunction do? It connects two independent clauses. So let's clear the board and we'll take a look at tonight's problem, tonight's English mystery. And as I said, it starts as a simple question, but sometimes mysteries start with simple clues. So somebody asked me this question recently. How do I use neither and either? How do I use neither and either? Sounds like a simple question. But actually, if we take a look at this, where am I? If we take a look at this closely, we can see a bigger mystery. But I want to take some time with this because I think it's a really important topic. Okay? So that's what we're going to focus some time on tonight. Yes, because however must begin a new sentence, Wilson. You can also put, yes, Jonas says, a semicolon before however, for the same reason. A semicolon starts a new sentence, right? So the semicolon, which we've talked about on other shows, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here, a semicolon essentially tells you that there is a new sentence beginning and another one ending. But the little comma in the sentence tells you that the idea is not finished. So the semicolon is an interesting punctuation because it has two parts, right? It has the period, which tells you that there's an independent clause finishing and an independent clause starting, but the comma says the idea flows on. So it's kind of doing two things at the same time. But again, we've talked about that many times on the show, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to focus on this main question. Where am I? Yeah. So the question here is, how do I use neither and either? What are they? So I've told you about fanboys, which are called coordinating conjunctions. But tonight I want to look at something called correlative or correlating conjunctions. And sometimes they're also called paired conjunctions. So sometimes, this is the problem with English grammar. Depending on your textbook, it might be called a paired conjunction. It might be called a correlative or correlative or correlating conjunction. You know, different textbooks are made in the UK, the USA, Canada. They all like to have their own names for things, which makes it harder to learn. Absolutely. But tonight I want to have a look at that and what that means and how to use them, right? Which is the most important thing. But I like to connect meaning to everything we talk about here because that's the purpose of grammar. Grammar is the structure through which we express meaning. Bad grammar, no meaning. Okay? So let's take a look at this. I want to start where we started before with two clauses. Let's say we have two clauses. Let's say Paul ate the pizza. Paul ate the pizza. Okay? I want to use really simple sentences here because they fit on the board and they help us see the parts very clearly. Bill ate the pizza. Okay? Two sentences, period. Now imagine somebody asks you, hey, who ate the pizza? Who ate the pizza? Who ate the pizza? And you say, oh, Paul ate the pizza. Bill ate the pizza. That's a lot of repetition, right? In fact, if you look closely, there is one word in each sentence that is not repeated, right? Paul and Bill, which are the subjects. Ate, ate, same verb. The pizza, same object. Well, here's a little tip about English. Unlike some languages, English is best when it's concise. We have grammar and vocabulary that allows you to say a lot with a few words. Okay? The goal of English is not to say a million words and have sentences that last 20 minutes. Okay? English works best when the meanings are clear and direct. And we have language, we have structure and vocabulary that allows that. In other words, if you can get rid of repetition, please do. That's more beautiful English. We have two big pieces of repetition. So I want to suggest and show you a way we can cut that. But we can't cut Bill and Paul because they're different. We can only cut the repeated parts. Now we have to keep one of them, otherwise we have no sentence. So now we have the two different parts, and we are going to pair them or correlate them because they are related. They do the same action. So, how do we do that? We bring in a system we call correlative conjunctions to connect that and that, but relate it to the action. Here's how we can do it. We can say, both Paul and Bill ate the pizza. Both Paul and Bill ate the pizza. Two different subjects connected with and, using both to start the sentence to tell you from the start of the sentence that we have two subjects. Both, what? Both Paul and Bill ate the pizza. And we put the unrepeated or the repeated phrase at the end. Okay? So it kind of does this. When the subject is not repeated, when the subject is the distinct part, the different part, we put the correlative conjunction right in front of it. Both Paul and Bill. Now, obviously, if you're writing a sentence, we put this closer. Okay? Now, you don't say this. I'm just putting it here to show you the position. Because this is a grammar that many people learn, but they forget or never really understand the position of these expressions. Both Paul and Bill, because we have two different subjects. So this goes right in front of the two different parts, and that follows. Okay? Now there are both and must work together. Okay? There are other correlative conjunctions we can use. What if we're not sure? Did Paul eat the pizza or Bill ate the pizza? I know one of them ate it, but I don't know which. But there was a pizza in the room, and there was Paul and Bill in the room. So the mystery is, who ate it? I'm not sure. One of them ate it, certainly. So we could say, either Paul or Bill ate the pizza. Two choices. So either is a way of expressing two possible choices. Either Paul or Bill ate the pizza. And you can also use this when you have two choices in life. Hey, what do you want to do tonight? Well, we could either go to the movie or go to the cafe. Two choices. Either or. Two possible choices. Now, there's another grammar we can use to correlate this. What if you know who did the crime? Who ate the pizza, Paul? I know. Did Paul eat the pizza? No. Did Bill eat the pizza? No. In that case, I'm going to use neither Paul nor Bill ate the pizza. Paul didn't and Bill didn't. Susie ate the pizza. Susie ate the pizza, not Paul, not Bill. So this is negative plus negative. And the way you can remember that is simple. Negative, the word negative starts with an N. N, N. In English, negative words start with N or have N in them. Neither, nor, not. Never. There's another one I'm forgetting. Neither, nor, not, never. Something. They all have an N in there. So it's an easy way to remember. This means neither Paul nor Bill ate the pizza. It was Susie who did the crime. Okay? So remember, neither, nor, either, or. So either were, and some people pronounce it either. It doesn't matter. Either, either, same thing. That's two possible choices. This is two impossible choices, two negatives. It wasn't Paul and it wasn't Bill. Neither. So that answers the original question of neither and either. Either is two positive or possible choices. Neither is two negative choices. Okay? And you'll notice we don't need to say not or didn't. Right? The verb stays positive. It is these two words, these correlative conjunctions, that express the negativity. So far, so good? Okay. Now there's even another expression you can add to this combination. What if you know that Paul ate the pizza? You see the pizza, and Paul has a pizza in his face. You catch him red-handed. You know he ate the pizza. So when your friend says, "Who ate the pizza?" you can say Paul ate the pizza. But what if you also know that Bill ate the pizza, but then he left the room? So when your friend Susie comes in and says, "Who ate the pizza?" Paul? Did Paul eat the pizza? Obviously. You can add something surprising by doing this. Not only Paul. Yes, you're right. Paul ate the pizza. So when you come in the room and you see the pizza and Paul eating it, it's clear that Paul ate the pizza. But here's the surprising information. Not only Paul, but also Bill ate the pizza. So Bill is the surprising part. Not only Paul, but also Bill. And by the way, N for negative. Not only is a negative expression because it says it's not just Paul. It's also Bill. Okay? So this is how you add something surprising. That someone else knows, part of the idea. Someone knows that Paul ate the pizza. But here's the surprise. Also Bill. Bet you didn't know Bill also ate the pizza. That's the surprising piece. Now I want to pause for a minute. Okay. Oh yes, here's the other word we're talking about with negative. None, or nobody, or no one. They all have N's in them. Nobody, none, not only, never. All the negative words have an N. Great. Okay. So these are the correlative conjunctions. Neither, either, both, neither nor, not only but also neither nor, either or, both and. And they have partners, right? So they always work together. But here's where it gets tricky. In this example, we had two subjects. So as I said, this tells us that the conjunction starts right in front of the subject. not only Paul, neither Paul, either Paul, both Paul, but also nor, right? This is connecting two subjects. What if we had one subject, but two verbs? We have to consider that. Remember how we started. We had Paul ate the pizza, Bill ate the pizza. We had repetition, and we want to cut out the repetition. So let's have a different idea. Let's start from a different point. What if we had a sentence like this? What if we had one subject, two verbs? What if we had Paul ate the pizza, period. Paul, same subject, made the pizza. Okay? So again, we have two clauses, and they are two independent clauses. They have the same subject. One moment, guys. I'm going to remove a bit of the graphic so we can see clearly. So they have the same subject, Paul and Paul, but the verb is different now. The verb is the different element. And remember what I said with the first example. The correlative conjunction goes right in front of the different part. So what's the different part here? Well, the verb is the different part. So now this is going to move in front of the verb. So we're going to say this. Paul, we can cut out one of the Pauls. But we can't cut out the verbs because they're different. So we're going to say Paul not only, right? Remember the other example, this was on the beginning. Now it's coming after the subject. Paul not only ate, but also made the pizza. So because the verbs are different, this thing has moved from here to here. And now we can say, Paul not only ate, but also made the pizza. So that's why I use this thing. Now, I don't want you to write this, and there's no way to pronounce it. I'm just putting it here to show you how this conjunction goes in front of the non-repeated piece. The first example, the subject was the non-repeated piece. Now it's the verb. The verbs are different. The object's the same, pizza, pizza. So Paul not only ate, but also made the pizza. Surprise, surprise. But what if Paul didn't do anything? Well, Paul not only ate, Paul neither ate nor made the pizza. He wasn't in the room. Did Paul eat the pizza and make it? No. Paul neither ate nor made the pizza. Susie ate it and made it. Paul either ate or made the pizza. Not both. One of them is true. Either or. Either ate the pizza or made the pizza is true, but not both. And we can also say this. Paul both ate and made the pizza. Both are true. Okay? Now we're talking about the actions. The two actions are true. The two verbs are true. Okay, so you can see this is moving from pairing the subjects, but now it's pairing the verbs. Why? Because everything else in the sentence is repeated. We have two sentences, same subject, same object. I think you can see where this is going, right? Let's move the conjunctions further and make two sentences with two different objects. What if we said, Paul ate the pizza, Paul made the noodles? Okay? Now the objects are the different part. Oh, sorry. Let's make the verbs the same. So Paul ate the pizza. Paul ate the noodles. He was hungry. Well, now, it's not the subject that repeats or is different. It's not the verb that's different. It's the object that's different. So the repeated parts, we can cut one of them. Paul ate, and now this is coming up. Paul ate not only the pizza, but also the noodles. Right? So again, this is moving the conjunction down the sentence. We have one subject who did two actions, one verb, and so on. But we have two different objects. So the conjunction goes down here. And it's the same with the other ones. Neither, either, both, and nor, either or, both and. Paul ate neither the pizza nor the noodles. He ate nothing. He ate the hamburger. He ate the sushi. Or Paul ate either the pizza or the noodles. I'm not sure. One of them. Okay? Or he ate everything. Paul ate both the pizza and the noodles. He was hungry, so he ate everything. So now we can make these sentences with two different subjects, two different verbs, two different objects. We can also do it when two entire clauses are different. So how do we do that? And by the way, this is a very common structure because often two different clauses are spoken. For example, if someone asks you, hey, what do you want to do tonight after school? Well, I have two ideas. We could go to the movie, right? Or I could study alone. Look at those sentences carefully. We have two different subjects, subject number one, subject number two, and they are different. We as a group or I alone. We have two different verbs. Verb one, go. Verb two, study. We don't even have objects really. We have prepositional phrases and we have an adverb. So we have two totally different clauses. But remember the rule. The rule is we put this in front of the different part. If it's different subjects, we say not only Paul, but also Bill. If we have two different verbs, we move this in front of the verb. Paul not only ate, but also made the pizza. And if we have two different objects, we say Paul ate not only the pizza, but also the noodles. But if we have two entirely different sentences, I think the answer should be obvious. Let's say we're using probably the most common. Either we could go to the movie, or I could just go home and study alone. So this goes in front of the entire clause, and then or in front of the entire other clause. Okay? So these are what we call correlative conjunctions. Any questions about that? Let's see. Oh, I see my friend Mohammed in Seattle, close to where I live. Okay, so Jonas is practicing the structure here. So he has one subject, it, one verb, is, and then we have two, not objects, but two adjectives. And you can do that too. Not only interesting, but also exciting. But Jonas, you should check the spelling here. You're missing the letter C. But yes, excellent example. And here's another example. Jonas, one subject, both works and listens, so two different verbs, to music. So two different actions, and they are the ones that are paired, right? So this is the pairing symbol. Jonas both works and listens to music. Good. Okay, I'm just going to clear the board, and we can use our time for questions. And I already see a couple of other different questions that we can address. But first, we have to clear the board. So I hope that answers the question about how to use either or, neither nor. Okay? And what's the difference? I'll just add a couple of examples where we use those expressions not quite like this, not as a correlative conjunction. And maybe that causes confusions. So let's look at a conversation. What if we had a conversation, a context? Person A says, I hate pizza. Person B says, me too. Okay? That's good. I hate pizza. Now, hate has a negative meaning. Meaning. Hating is not a good thing. I don't want to hate anything or anybody. So the meaning is negative. But grammatically, it's a positive sentence. A negative sentence would be, I do not like pizza. And the meaning is similar, right? I do not like pizza. But grammatically, we have a negative here. We have one of those N's. So when you have a positive sentence and the other person agrees, we say me too. If someone says a negative sentence and we agree with the negative idea and the negative grammar, we have to answer with negative grammar. So, how do we agree to a negative grammar sentence? Me, neither. We want to agree with that idea, both grammatically and semantically, which means meaning. Me neither. So, I'm agreeing to a negative structure and a negative idea. Here I'm agreeing to a negative idea, but it's a positive grammar, so me too. Okay? I do not like pizza. You could say me neither. You can say neither do I. As I see Tia has suggested. Same idea. In both cases, we have the negative piece here so that we are agreeing with the idea, but we're agreeing grammatically. We are agreeing with structure. Okay? And that's how we do that. So often people ask me that, should I say me either? No. If you want to agree to a positive grammar, use me too. Okay? And again, although that's a negative idea, hating is generally a negative thing, grammatically speaking, it's a positive sentence. And you can substitute that with any other positive verb, like I love. Now we can agree, I think, that love is a positive feeling. It's a positive verb, but it's the same grammatically as hate. It's a positive sentence. It's what we call a positive or affirmative sentence. You're stating something is true. Here you're stating something is negative, right? The verb is like. You're turning that verb into a negative action. Here it's a positive action, but so is hate. It's still an affirmative action. And so the answer is the same. I love pizza. Yeah, me too. I hate pizza. Yeah, me too. Okay? We use neither when the grammar is negative. For example, I do not hate pizza. So hate is a negative idea. And if we do not hate pizza, we still answer neither. Okay? So this is the question that pops up naturally. Me either. So can I answer with me either? No, doesn't work. Me too. That is positive agreement, grammatically and with the meaning. Now some people say this, I do not hate pizza, or I do not like pizza. Many people will say me either, even in Canada or US. It's kind of bad grammar. Okay? It just is. Here we want to reflect. When we agree with someone, we're like a mirror. I love pizza, me too, same thing. I'm a mirror to you. Here we want to reflect the negative idea. To do it, we need to reflect like a mirror with the negative structure. So we need neither. I do not love pizza. Yeah, neither do I. I do not hate pizza. Neither do I. So you will hear people say me either. It's just not really good grammar. Okay? Sometimes native speakers say things in normal conversation that are simply bad grammar. Not everyone in Canada, UK, the US, or Australia uses good grammar. It's a sad fact, but it's true. And that makes it challenging for learners because learners listen to native speakers and sometimes assume that native speakers are native speakers, so their English must be perfect. It's not true. In fact, even in places where you think you should hear good grammar, you'll hear bad grammar. Places like television, movies, music, they're full of terrible grammar. Okay? And you might not know that it's bad grammar. That's a challenge, for sure. And that's why you need teachers to help you. Can we use either in a positive sentence? Yes, when we're expressing choices, right? For example, I love to either travel or study. Okay? But if you look closely, it's kind of what we just discussed with the paired conjunctions. So these are two different verbs. One subject, one verb, and then we have two other verbs. I love to do either this or that. Not at the same time. Choices. So we can still take that meaning into a conversation. So let's look at that. Because oftentimes what we do in one sentence gets broken up and separated between two people in a conversation. And that is very important to understand because conversations between two people often finish the other person's sentence. And then it looks like you can do that with one sentence. It can be tricky. So sometimes you might have a conversation like, hey, what do you want to do tonight? We could either go to the movie. Or we could visit the cafe. Now look at these two sentences. Two different people with two different sentences. Look at them individually. One sentence says, or we could visit the cafe. Now if you said that sentence alone, like walk up to a stranger and said that sentence, excuse me, or we could go to the cafe. They wouldn't understand you. Likewise, if you said this to a stranger, pulled that sentence out of the conversation and just said it alone, we could either go to the movie. It makes no sense. But when you put them together, it's an example of what we did earlier with the paired conjunctions. It's just broken up and separated between two people. One person says one half of the sentence, the other person says the second half of the sentence. Overall, it creates one big perfect sentence. That happens often with conversations, right? We could either go to the movie or we could visit the cafe. Two different choices. Think about when someone asks you what your plan is for after school. Well, what do you want to be professionally after school? Either a lawyer or a teacher. Two choices. Not one or the other is solid yet. And that's pretty much where we use either to establish two choices, to express two choices. Here's another variation on that. How to answer a question like, don't you eat pizza? So this is a good question, Jonas. And it's a good question because this is a confusion or a doubt a lot of students have. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Common question. So here, what you're asking me really is, what's the difference between these two questions? Right? There's two ways to ask this question. Do you eat pizza? Or don't you eat pizza? And as we said earlier, this is a negative grammar structure because it has the word not. Do not you eat pizza? So what are the two answers that are possible? And when would you ask this question and when would you ask that question? You would ask this question if you had no idea what the answer was. You have no idea about your friend's pizza choice. So the answer would likely be yes or no. Right? And both those answers would be surprising because you have zero previous knowledge about that pizza habit. Right? You just want to know yes or no. Do you eat pizza? Yes. Oh, great. I love pizza. I know a great place to go eat pizza. Do you eat pizza? No. Oh, why not? So you're getting to know someone and you don't know much about them. So you say, do you eat pizza? Yes or no? And both answers are a surprise to you. That's when you ask that kind of question. Do you eat pizza? Do you travel? Because you don't know anything. You ask this kind of question when you already believe they do eat pizza. You thought they eat pizza. So you previously believe they eat pizza, and we have pizza on the table and they don't eat it. So based on their action, you are surprised. And you ask them, don't you eat pizza? I thought you ate pizza. I thought everyone loves pizza. Don't you eat pizza? So the negative, the expressing the negative, is a way of expressing your surprise about the negative. Why? Because you believe the positive. You believe they ate pizza. So how would the answer be? Don't you eat pizza? No, I don't. Again with the negative. No, I don't. Don't you eat pizza? No, I don't. But what if the answer is yes? They're not eating pizza in the room on the table now, but they usually eat pizza. Well, they might answer, don't you eat pizza? Yes, but not today. Or not often. Or I'm on a diet. Right? So it's possible to be yes or no. I mean, that's reality. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So both are possible. Right? No, I don't. Because the question here is the negative question. You're asking them, don't they eat pizza? Right? So you want an answer in that same form. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Yes, I do, but not today. Sorry. Yes, I do. Usually, but not today. Okay? How if you have more than two choices? Well, you still use either, but maybe you can use 2 times or. So, what do you want to be after school? Well, either a lawyer, or a teacher, or a doctor, or a computer engineer, or a carpenter, or a detective who wears a hat, right? So start with either and just add more ors. That's how you do that. That is correct. Okay, we have another question built on this, which is good. And this is also a good question. So we have this other word called weather, not spelt like the climate word, weather, like rainy weather or snowy weather. So we said either was about 2 choices. I will use either my red pen or my blue pen. Not both, either or. Choices. 1 out of 2 possibilities, or 3, or 4, or 5, right? What does weather mean? Sorry, I gotta make some space here. I don't know whether to sing or cry. Okay, so this is a common expression. I don't know whether to do this or that. I don't know whether to study or to travel. Okay? What do you notice here? We have 2 actions, 2 verbs in infinitive verb form. Now remember how we structured those sentences with either or. There was no infinitive verb. Because the main verb of this sentence isn't to study or travel. Those are infinitive verbs. Infinitive verbs express action, but not action in real time. That's why they don't have a tense. That's why they're called infinitive verbs, right? Infinitive is related to the word infinity, which means endless time, right? In math or engineering or physics, you have that symbol, which means infinity. Infinitive verbs are verbs outside of time, right? Because in this sentence, we are not studying and we are not traveling. They're possibilities. So they're not happening yet. They didn't happen in the past, and they may not happen in the future. They're possibilities, so they're timeless. The verb in this sentence is know. I don't know. Don't know what? I don't know which possible action to do. So infinitive verb, two choices, we use whether. Okay? We can also use it in a sentence like this. Whether or not I sing so whether or not usually work together. Whether or not. And you can move that to over here, whether I sing or not. Okay? So now we have something different. We have two possibilities, but only one of them will be true. And these possibilities are not clear. Whether or not I sing is unclear. Did Paul eat the pizza? Whether or not Paul ate the pizza is unknown, right? So these are not putting together two different ideas. These are putting together either one idea that's true or a second idea that's not true, whether or not. Okay? And they do work a little bit different. They are not conjunctions. This is not a conjunction. It's basically an adverb. So it's usually relating to a verb. Whether or not I sing. I don't know whether to sing or cry. Verbs. So this is not a conjunction connecting clauses. It's not a conjunction connecting subjects or two verbs. It's not a conjunction connecting two objects or even two adjectives. It's connecting possibilities in a yes or no fashion, whether or not. Whether meaning possible. So that's also an excellent question. So Guy has a suggestion here. Sometimes I can either participate or just listening. Now, when you use these conjunctions either or, the word that you're pairing, in this case a verb, participate, the other one has to be in the same form, the same tense or form. So we have participate, that's a verb in base form. So we should have listen, not listening. Listen. Sometimes I can either participate or just listen. Okay? But good example. Guys, I think one more question I want to deal with, and then I think we might be out of time. So let me go back here a little bit. Where the heck was it now? I think I missed a question, but maybe I didn't. Ah, here it is. None, the prefix un as in uncomfortable, yes. Right, so that's a negative prefix for an adjective, uncomfortable. And it's funny because English has several prefixes that are negative. Let's take a quick look. Now these are different than what we've been talking about because these are not grammatical parts or even words. These are prefixes. So they're little pieces of a word, but they change the meaning of the word. And usually with adjectives. So, for example, comfortable, comfortable. That's positive, and this makes it negative. But we also have words like mature. The child grows up and becomes more adult. They learn, they make mistakes, they learn, they grow, they become adults, right? Or not. Sometimes they grow up physically, but their brain and their action is not mature. So how do we say not mature? Im. Right? And that's a different prefix, same meaning. So the meaning here is not, right? Not comfortable, not mature, right? Do you guys know other prefixes in English that are negative? We have some more. Let's see if you know. If we have an adjective like this, hospitable. The restaurant was hospitable. They welcomed people. They were very friendly. They made you comfortable. Or they said, get out. You don't have a tie on. Right? We would say, inhospitable. Not im, not un, not in. And I see one here. Yeah, Lolly Lolly says in. So if we have another adjective like reputable. Reputable, good reputation. That restaurant has a good reputation. To make that negative, we put dis. Right? Disreputable. Or here we have discomfort. But this is a noun. We're just looking at adjectives. Same thing though. Right? Any other ones you can think of? Let's see. Right? Dis. In. And this is one of the things that makes learning English vocabulary difficult to learn. So, yeah, I think I'll come back to that in a second. So if we have an adjective like responsible, she's a very responsible young lady. She takes care of her younger sister. But that boy, he's not responsible. We would say irresponsible. And we have one here from Chris, which she says I'll, but I'll means I will. That's not exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about prefixes, but there is one called ill, which means sick. Now that doesn't work exactly like a prefix, Chris, but it is often attached to positive words, like, here's a common one, ill-suited. So that means like not a good match. It just basically means your clothes don't fit. But we can use it for other things like, let's say Susie is not very friendly. Well, she shouldn't be a teacher. Teacher has to be friendly and have good relationships with students. So we could say Susie is ill-suited for teaching. Okay? But this doesn't work like a prefix. It works as a hyphenated because ill is an adjective. It's a complete adjective. But Jonas is onto something, and I think this is what you were probably talking about, Chris, is if we have an adjective like legal, to make it not legal, we say ill. So you're in the right direction, but we need one L. illegal. And useful and useless, but those are suffixes. So we're going to stick with prefixes here. And yeah, it's a typo. I get it. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm sure you meant this one. Yeah. Okay, good. So, you know, a lot of students struggle with this because there are clearly at least 6 prefixes that all mean not. And it's funny. I teach a class of Japanese high school students online, and they're around the intermediate level, and they always ask me why this, why that, and the answer tends to be the same all the time. Why is English like this? Japanese has 1 prefix, let's say, and they say, why should it be like that? It seems illogical. It is, but it's important to remember, and this is the same answer for a lot of those why questions. Nobody sat down and designed English. If someone sits down and designs a language, they're not going to design it like this. This is not very efficient, right? Too many prefixes. All you need is 1 to fit everything. But nobody sat down and designed English. It evolved over centuries, but it evolved in a way that some languages didn't. For example, Japanese. England, the country, was conquered through history many times by France, by the Roman Empire, by the Celtic people, and by the Germanic people. This is old history, right? Not modern 20th century history. So all of those nations in the old days conquered England, and they mixed their languages. So for example, this prefix comes from German language. Lolly, lolly, maybe you can help me. I believe this and this one come from French. And I'm not sure, maybe this one is from Spanish or Latin, Roman Latin. I'm not sure. I only know that that's German, and I'm pretty sure that that's French. Inhospitable, however you might pronounce that. So these prefixes were added to the English language over history. That's why we have so many of them. That's also why we have so many different structures of words and spelling rules. So that question why is often the same answer, because the English language grew in the UK, in England, over hundreds of years. It didn't grow in Canada or the US, even though those are maybe the most commonly seen representations of language in the world because of the media. English language did not start in the Americas. It started in England. And the country England was conquered many times by different countries with different languages. And the languages mixed. Oh yes, miss. Right? That's often used with verbs. And Lolly Lolly says, yes, from in French. Yeah, so mortal, immortal, that's using the im, right? So again, these prefixes it's tough to learn them because there are several of them in use, and that's because of the history of the English language's evolution in the country of England, which had been conquered. And that's the answer to so many why questions. That's the answer to the question, why do we have this grammar rule but this exception? Well, that's because we have different grammars working together in English. We have Latin grammar and we have Germanic grammar. It's all mixed. It's challenging. And this is what makes English hard to learn, right? It's not a smooth, regular, efficient, highly designed language. It's not. I know we have Stacy with us from South Korea. Korea is an interesting example because it is a designed language. There was a king, I'm not sure how many years ago, maybe 500 years ago, there was a king in Korea, and the people were very poor and they couldn't read or write. And he wanted to make a language for the people that everyone could learn very quickly and easily, that would be a written language that matched the spoken language. So he asked a scholar to design the language. And a scholar sat down and designed the language. So He didn't say, oh, I'm going to have 6 different prefixes. That's stupid. He designed the Korean language, Hangul, with probably 1 prefix. It's much more efficient because it was planned and designed, right? And you can think about those things when you design a language. English was never designed. So you can see this is the problem with English. Jonas, that's a very kind thing to say. Thank you. That's my dream. My dream for this show is to help you solve your English mysteries, right? Everyone has confusions about English. It's a really confusing language, right? Very confusing. And asking why doesn't really help. Why is it this? Why is it that? Because of the history of English. Okay, great. How do I learn it is the real deal. It's the real question. So I appreciate this because this show is for you guys. For those of you who have watched this show for a long time, I've struggled with it because sometimes nobody watches. Sometimes, it's hard to put on this show. This is an expensive thing to produce every week. So sometimes I've thought about stopping it, right? But as long as you guys benefit from it, as long as people like Jonas and you guys appreciate it, I'll keep doing it. Because I love grammar, I love English, and I love to help people understand it better. And I also know that there are a lot of English courses, English teachers, English schools, English YouTube channels that don't really help you learn grammar so well because a lot of teachers don't like grammar or don't understand it, and they struggle to help people really understand it. I happen to like it and enjoy it and try to have fun looking at it and try to understand it in a different way. That's why I treat it like a mystery. For me, I like to look at the language with you guys and figure it out. You'll notice I'm not telling you a bunch of rules to remember. That's what a course or a teacher will do for you when you're a beginner, and that's important. Here, we're examining it, we're analyzing it, we're breaking it down, we're comparing it. And I think that's a great way to learn. Now, if you're a beginner, this show is probably not beneficial for you because we need some knowledge to start with, right? Yeah, Eunice, yes, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys coming every week. It's great. This is not, I don't do this show for me. This is actually hard for me. It takes a lot of work to prepare this, and I'm not so young and energetic anymore, and it's the end of my day and my work week. So, I have to work hard for this show. But if it's helping people, it makes me feel good. It motivates me to do this, right? So if you appreciate it, I'm really happy about that. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. It's really nice. And I thank you because I also know that although this is 5:30 p.m. on a Friday evening for me, so it's a convenient time, I also know that around the world, in your countries, maybe the time isn't convenient. And I have tried many different times for this show, and there's no perfect time. In the end, I decide on this time because one reason. To do this every week, it has to be a good time for me, right? And during the week, I work with private students through the day. Friday afternoon is my only free time, and I use that for the show. So I know it's not a convenient time for everybody. And of course, you can watch the recording on YouTube starting tomorrow morning when I post it. But if you appreciate it, I will keep doing it. And that's the important thing. Because my dream isn't to be famous. I don't care if I'm famous. My YouTube channel is not that popular. I'm not trying to make money from this. In fact, it costs me money. I spend money to make this show. I do it because I want to help you guys understand grammar and to make grammar a little less mysterious, right? Grammar doesn't have to be a big, fat mystery. We can solve the mystery together. Well, maybe you can come back in if you talk to the boss, right? Maybe have a conversation with Robin and you can come back in. Jonas says 1:30 a.m. here, and Jonas is in Morocco. Yeah. So I'm happy you can join. I appreciate it. And I believe Chris, who is in Belgium, it's also 1, 2 in the morning. Yeah, see, this is the thing. A lot of teachers say you don't need grammar. You'll learn it naturally, like native speakers do. When I hear that, I worry, because does that mean, why is the teacher saying that? Because they don't understand grammar and they can't teach it and they're not confident, or they're afraid you'll ask them a question they can't answer? That's one reason teachers say that. Another reason is they actually believe you don't need grammar, and they actually believe native speakers learn it naturally. I think none of that's true. When I was a child, yes, I listened to my parents when I was a baby talking English, and I copied it, and I absorbed some grammar. But once I started school in kindergarten and grade 1 or 2, we had grammar class. We learned grammar, right? We had a grammar textbook. And then we used it 24 hours a day because I grew up in an English country, right? So I copied my parents first, studied grammar in school, and then used it and heard it and absorbed it 24 hours a day for my whole life. Did I learn grammar naturally? Maybe. But I also had lessons. We had grammar class. And I wrote paragraphs and later essays in school, and the teacher corrected my grammar. If you're learning English as an adult especially, you don't have 50, I'm 58 years old. You don't have 58 years to develop perfect grammar. You don't have that time. So can you learn English naturally? I would say that's a lie. I would say you need magic for that, because you don't have the benefit of years and years, and you don't have the benefit of the amount of exposure you need to constantly have your brain feeding back and correcting yourself, right? Because when I'm a child and I say something with bad grammar, my parents correct me. My teacher corrects me. My friends correct me, right? There's a feedback, constant feedback every day, all day long. And if you're not in an English country, you're not going to get that, except from your teacher, which isn't a lot of time. Also, if I think I know a grammar but it's wrong, and then I watch television, oh, that's not how they use it differently. And then I correct myself. So TV feeds back. Plus, when native speakers are children, they watch educational TV shows with grammar lessons. So when an English teacher tells you you don't need to study grammar, just you'll absorb it naturally, I think it's a lie. I honestly do. I think you need magic, and there is no magic to learning English, right? Some people ask you silly questions like, what's more important, grammar or listening, grammar or reading, grammar? It's all important, right? Just like you learned your language, I learned my language with all of that stuff happening. Listening. When I was a child, we read a ton of books. By the time I finished high school, I'd read novels and novels and novels. Reading's important. Writing's important, so your teacher can give you feedback on your grammar, right? So I disagree with this 100%. Now, in my private work, mostly I work with writers. Mostly I'm a writing tutor. I also work with, in conversations too. So I'm not saying that grammar is the most important thing in the world. That's not what I'm saying. My show is about grammar because it's fun, and I think there's a need for good grammar analysis out there. So I have this show. I've never said that grammar is the number one thing you need to learn. That's not true either. You need to learn grammar. You need to learn vocabulary. You need to practice speaking. You need to practice listening. You need to read. You need to write. You need to read. English is such an irregular language. You need to see it. You can't just learn it by hearing it. You need to see it. So I say read a lot. And when you read, you get feedback because you can see grammar being used in a sentence. And maybe you read something and you have a question about it, then you ask your teacher or ask me on this show. So it's very interesting you say this because I hear this all the time. And the truth is, I think a lot of teachers don't like teaching grammar because they don't understand it and they're not confident to teach it. So they create this idea or this philosophy that you don't need it. If grammar is not important, here's a test. Try speaking a language, English, Spanish, any language. Try using that language without grammar. Okay? Take grammar out of your language. What do you get? You get a bunch of words. That's what you get. Let me show you an example. Let's try this. Let's test this theory that grammar is not important. What does language look like without grammar? Well, what is grammar? Remember what I told you I think grammar is? Grammar is the structure with which and through which we make meaning. Okay? So, what does a language look like without grammar? Let's see. Here's a quiz we did last week, I think. Look at this sentence, guys. That's a sentence with bad grammar structure. It's not the right structure. So if you take grammar out of a language, there you go. Bunch of words. Is Teacher Paul in English? How about another one? Bears Canadian, English usually speak. It's like a salad made of words. Let's try something more complex. Look at this one. Paul Guest will week have the on live stream next a. Right? There's no grammar structure there. So if we take a language and remove grammar because it's not important, I'm going to say things like this to you. Oh, Paul Guest will week have a the on live stream next a. And maybe your answer will be dog, cat, pizza, the in park. And we're just talking nonsense to each other. So what does that tell us? That tells us any language, not just English, but any language requires a structure. And it has to be a structure that the speaker knows and the listener knows. So that when I say something in that structure, you recognize the meaning. No structure, no meaning. Now, can you communicate with each other with no meaning? No. It's garbage. It's nonsense, right? This is the result. Language without grammar will be gibberish, nonsense, baby talk. Think about babies, how they talk to each other. They don't have vocabulary yet, and they don't have grammar yet. So if we take grammar out of it, we have vocabulary. We're going to talk like babies who have good vocabulary. So imagine a couple of babies talking to each other, but they have excellent vocabulary. They have big words like this: uncomfortable, inhospitable. So imagine two babies. Goo goo gaga, inhospitable, pizza, cat, dog. Indisputable, cat, dog, pizza, the. Gibberish. Neither one will understand each other. So for example, some of you belong to our WhatsApp community. Sometimes I see in the community thread where we don't focus on correcting each other, we just chat, friendly chats. Sometimes you can see a lot of misunderstanding. And sometimes those misunderstandings in the WhatsApp conversation, people get angry or hurt. Why? Because they misunderstand each other. And why does that happen? It usually happens because they're not using grammar accurately, so their true meaning is not communicated. And worse, their true meaning is not understood by the other person. That's because the grammar's not good. So, grammar, yes, it is very important. It's one of the core pieces of a language. Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, all that stuff is important. You can't take one out and still have a language. It all works together, right? Now, I also believe grammar is taught badly in some schools. It's taught like a bunch of rules, memorize them, take a quiz. And then students do that and then they forget how to use it because they just needed it to pass the test. That's not a good way to learn grammar. It's better to learn the grammar as a series of structures. Each one has a different meaning. And which one you choose is based on the meaning you want to communicate. That's how we need to learn grammar. But if you think you're going to learn perfect English and communicate well and never learn grammar, you're dreaming. You need magic for that. And there's no magic that I know of that's available for language learning. So sooner or later, you have to look at grammar. You can do it when you're a beginner, or you can do it later when you're an advanced student and reflect on the grammar you know or don't know. But you have to look at it sooner or later because it's the structure, right? No structure, no building. An office tower has a different design architecture than a bridge. You can't switch them. You can't make an office tower using a bridge architecture, right? And you can't make a bridge architecture using a sports stadium design. Each one is built for a different meaning or a different purpose. It's the same with English or any language grammar. Each grammar communicates a different idea. The goal should be to learn a lot of different structures, grammar structures, so that you can communicate a lot of different meanings. And more importantly, that you can choose the right structure to match the meaning you think and you want to share. So the goal really is precision. This is my idea, and this is how to say that idea so the other person understands this that's in my brain. That's the goal. And that requires being able to control the grammar so that it does what you want. It communicates your intended meaning. That's the goal of grammar. Not to pass a quiz, not to memorize, not to follow rules, right? It's to communicate with. If you don't think it's important, take grammar out of the language and try to communicate with someone. Gibberish. Okay, guys, I'm going to say good night. I'm going to record this, Jonas, and we'll talk about it on next week's show, okay? We're out of time now. My camera is about to explode, so I better go. But we will talk about this next week, okay? Thank you guys for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure, as always, to help you solve the mysteries of English. I'm going to go eat some pizza or maybe some sushi and enjoy the rest of my evening. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week, same time, same day. Until I do, as always, guys, I want you to stay healthy, keep learning English, and stay cool. Thanks for watching tonight's show. If you have an English grammar question, an English mystery, contact me on social media and send me a video of you asking the question. I'll investigate it on a future show. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get all the updates about videos and events. If you're feeling generous, you can also donate to the production costs of the show at Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. Finally, until the next time I see you on Hard Boiled English Live, I want you to keep learning English. Stay healthy and stay cool.